Oh, great. Right, we're going to get started. Thank you for sticking around to see us, last slot of the day. Hope you enjoyed the conference, and hope you're all enjoying your Lumia 920s. There's a couple of whoops, thank you. So I'm Steve Robbins, I'm the Chief Architect for Nokia Music, and this is Matt Cooper, he's our Windows Phone Architect as well.
Hello.
So today we're going to go through the Nokia Music Windows Phone 8 app-to-app APIs. So his agenda, first thing we're going to do is show you what Nokia Music is, and then we're going to go on to talk about app-to-app APIs, why you should use them, how you can use them within your app, and finally we're going to go on and show you the Nokia Music REST API, so showing you how easy it is to get music data into your app. So I thought it would be worth starting off with what Nokia Music is. There's a whole bunch of sort of marketing terms up here, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you a demo of the app. So as you open the app, you can see last things you've been listening to. So after last night's party, I started listening to some Best Coast. I thought they were pretty cool. Over here, we have this great feature called Mix Radio, which I'll come back to in a second. We have an MP3 store. And we have this great feature called Gig Finder. So I'm going to go down and show you a bit about the Mix Radio. What we found from user studies is that majority of people don't have the time or inclination to go and make playlists that they can go and listen to. And also, a lot of people are interested in discovering new music. So what we have here is a list of mixes grouped up into sort of categories. And these vary per country. So this is using the US store. And so you can see, for example, if I drill down into rock, we have all sorts of mixes, so covering all the different subgenres within a category. So you have things like hard rock, alternative rock, indie rock, soft rock, hair bands. That's a nice one there, if you can see that. Just about to see Poison, hopefully. Punk, and so on. We also have things like charts, so you can find out pop charts, and so on. The great thing about Mix Radio is what you can do is just click it to play, or you can do a long press. You can pin that to the start menu, or you can make it available offline. Now what that means is you can download about 4 hours of music for each of these mixes and use it when you're out and about. So for example, when you're flying home tonight, you can listen to Mix Radio on the plane without using any data. It's also great for low connectivity areas as well. So over here you can see I've already downloaded the Billboard Hot 100, made that offline. Next thing we offer, if you want to get a bit more engaged, get something a bit more personal to use, you can create a mix. So here you can type in up to 3 artists. The typing has gone to pot. Luckily we have suggestions there, so you can see I can type in up to 3 artists. If I hit play, you can go and listen to many hours of music based on the artists you've typed in and similar artists to those bands. So the next thing I wanted to show you was the Gig Finder, which obviously based on your location, it will show you gigs that are coming up over the next couple of days. And you can see here quite a great list. So if I go into the Cat Power one, hopefully you can just about make out. So you can click on The Who, which is the artist. If I click on that, you can see all the gigs coming up by that artist. So if you can't meet go and see the one today, maybe you can go and catch them later in the tour. Also, you can link through and search based on where they're playing and so on, and also get directions. And finally, you can link through and get tickets if you wanted to go and buy them straight ahead on your phone. So that's enough for that demo. So I'm excited to say we launched in the US in September. So we've been live a couple of months in the US, but we're also available in many other countries such as Mexico, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and so on. And of course, Europe, which is where I'm from. So I'm excited to announce that Nokia Music 3.5, which went into the store last night, includes support for app-to-app protocols. So what are app-to-app protocols? Some of you may have seen Sean McKenna's talk just now. If you did, then you already know. But if not, what you can do within your app in Windows Phone 8 is register to allow other apps to call into your app. So right down the bottom here, what we're doing is registering this Nokia Dash Music scheme. And what you can see on the screen here, on the left-hand side, this is a third-party app. So this could be your app. It's got a button here saying Show Rihanna. When you click on that, you use the new launcher launch URI async method that's coming in, well, is available in Windows Phone 8. With this URL, which is show artist name equals Rihanna, it will start our app and go to the artist details page. So what protocols have we added support for? Well, the first one, very simple. You can just start Nokia Music. Moving on to stuff that's perhaps a bit more interesting, you can search the MP3 store. And this can be any search term. It could be an artist, or it could be a general term such as love. You can show artist details and start an artist mix. So where I was showing you the create section of the app, you can actually call this from your app and start a mix playback. Next thing you can do is show the gigs page, which I was demoing just now, and also search for gigs. So if you wanted to deep link into our app, searching for a particular band that you like, you can go ahead and do that. The next thing you can do is show the curated mix page and let the user choose something to listen to. And you can also initiate playback of a specific mix if you're using the REST API. Final thing is to show product details, and by product I mean an album or a track that you've got details of, again, through our REST API, which I'll come back to in a minute. So what I wanted to do was give you some demos of app-to-app in action using Nokia Music. So first thing I'm going to do is create a brand new project. Showing up. So it's just a standard Windows Phone 8 application. And what I'm going to do is go into the XAML. I'm just going to add a button. I'm going to vertically align it to the top so it looks a bit nicer, and add a click handler. So if I go into the code behind now, again, I'm going to use that same new launcher class that's been added in Windows Phone 8 and call the launch URI async method. Okay, and I just need to make sure I hit the right emulator. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that, there's my awesome looking application. Very exciting, I'm sure you can all see. So if I click this, that calls that URI, and there the app starts. So that's first thing, just basic showing it. Now to change this to make it a bit more useful, what I'm going to do is extend this to allow you to search within Nokia Music. So if I change this grid into a stack panel, and I'm just going to add a text box above. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is just change the URI. to be search/anything. The other URI we support is search/gigs, so that's what we have up there. So if I set the term equals search.text, whoops. Okay, so I'm going to go and run that. Has anybody got a band they would like to search for? There it is. Best Coast. Okay. Okay, so just hit that, hit search. And there we go. They come up as a top result. Fantastic. The next thing I wanted to show you is some of the benefits of using that to app. Okay. So one of the reasons we requested the scheme handling from Microsoft is social networks and so on. So with Nokia Music, we allow users to share out to social networks tracks they're listening to. So what you can see here is a tweet from Monday. So if I click on this, it's actually a link to our website, so we can handle iOS and other types of browsers that are coming and hitting us. But what we're doing on the back end is detecting that it's Windows Phone 8 and it's a Nokia phone and redirecting to our scheme. So this is showing the track details. And at the request of Justin Angel, I have to play some music. So there you go. You come straight through to the actual track and you can go and buy it. So now for the dodgier part, I'm going to try and use NFC. So on here, I have written a URI to start mixed radio playback. So if I hold it on the device, hooray, it's asking me, do I want to accept the content? So if I hit accept, what it's going to do is start the application and start playing the Billboard Top 100 chart. There you go. So hopefully you can see, if you implement these app-to-app protocols in your app, it opens up a few possibilities for you. So with the NFC specifically, I can personally say it's very easy to write NFC tags as of this week. I hadn't done it before. I hadn't even received an NFC tag till I saw Justin the other day. This is the code to go and do it. There's obviously a couple of magic methods there which aren't shown on this slide, but if you see at the bottom, there's a link to some slides by one of Nokia's NFC experts. And the slides in particular there, talking about Windows 8, but the great thing is with Windows Phone 8, the APIs for proximity are exactly the same. So what you can see here is this is the URI that I've written to that tag there to play this specific mix, which is the Billboard Top 100 in the US. And if you haven't picked up an NFC tag from the Nokia stand, go do it, because there's tons of them there. Okay, so next I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to show you how to create an app-to-app protocol with your... No, I'm not? Oh. Mic issues. I guess I need to do jazz hands or something at this point. Sorry? Oh, it was you that was humming. Okay.
So as Steve said, what I'm going to do now is show you how easy it is to add support for an app-to-app protocol in your own app. So basically, you register for the protocol handler, and then you add a little bit of code to accept the incoming URI, and then map it to something that makes sense in your app. So I am going to switch over to Visual Studio now. I've got a solution here, and you'll see there's a project in here. That's not that interesting. This is just my launcher app. I'll come back to that later. But what I really want to do is create a brand new project. Add new project. Build app. Windows Phone 8. So I'm going to do a sample project here to kind of show session details at build. Obviously, there already is a Windows Phone app, which I've used and it's been great, but as far as I know, that doesn't support app-to-app protocol. So I'm going to make a simple app here to kind of show you how easy it is. So first thing I'll do is I'll kind of add some content to this app. I'm going to cheat and basically just use a web browser control for now. Oops, sorry. Browser. Source. I'm going to set the source to be just the build website. So you start this up, and it's just going to display the build website. Build Windows.com. I think I spelled that right. So, thank you. So now I want to extend this app. I want to make this a bit more interesting. I want to let somebody link to a specific session. So the first thing I have to do is go into my WP app manifest file. You have to edit the code for this. And I'm going to add a protocol extension. So scroll down a bit, and after the tokens, add an extensions element. And then within there, you add a protocol. So the name here is the important bit. This is the name of the protocol that you want your app to respond to. So I'm going to just call it build. The example Steve showed earlier, obviously, our protocol was Nokia Music. So this Navi URI fragment, oops, lost my cursor. You just set this to embedded launch URI equals %s, and then you add task ID equals _default. Those two parameters, you just have to set them like that. Let me save that. So now what I want to do is, when the app is launched, I want to recognize that I've been launched with the protocol, and I want to behave a little differently. So if I go into the initialized phone application, I'm going to add a URI mapper. So this is what's going to look at the incoming URI, change a little bit, something that makes sense for me. So if I go to the root frame, the URI mapper, I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it association URI mapper. Then I'm going to, generate a class, and this class I need to extend URI mapper base. So using system Windows navigation, and then you'll see this is an abstract class with one method. I'm going to keep this really simple for the sake of this demo. I'm just going to turn a new URI, main page.xaml. So typically in here, you'd do a bit more logic. You'd kind of look at the incoming request. So Steve showed you a bunch of URIs that Nokia Music support. And what we do is we examine the URI. Depending on what it is, you kind of do some path parsing and query string stuff. And then you map to a different XAML page typically. But we've only got a few minutes here, so I'm just going to send the request to main page.xaml. So all I need to do now is do something in here to recognize that and behave a little differently. So if I override the navigated_to method on navigated_to, I'm going to cheat slightly and cut and paste a little bit of code in here, but I'll explain what I'm doing. So I'm looking at the incoming URI. I'm checking to see if it's a protocol. So when your app is launched with a custom protocol, URI always contains a /protocol, and then it's followed by embedded launch URI, which is what I specified in the WP app manifest, and then you get the encoded version of the URI you were launched with. So I'm doing some pretty simple string manipulation here to check for a session identifier. I'll show you an example of what the launch URI looks like with my following app. But basically, you can see I'm just changing the source of the browser to a page that corresponds to the session that I want to deep link to. So to deploy this app, I need to set it as the default so I can change the emulator. Deploy that. Oops, I don't quite want to show you that. I'm quickly going to show you my launcher app first. So this is really simple. It's very similar to the one that Steve showed you. So it's just a text box where the user could enter a parameter, and then in the code behind, I build up the launch URI. So down here you can see I call launcher.launchURI async. I pass in my URI, so in this case it's the build protocol session and then the session identifier. I think this is deployed, but deploy that again just to make sure. So over the emulator, enough music. So I've deployed 2 apps. The launcher is my test one. I'll start a build app first, just to see that you launch it by itself, you get the build website. Now, if I use this test app, you can see the user can enter a session that they're interested. This particular session interests me, so if I hit this button, hopefully it'll launch my app with the custom protocol, recognize that, and display the details of that session. Thank you. So hopefully you found that interesting. I mean, a typical use of this would probably be NFC again, that I could write session details to an NFC tag, walk around to people I'm chatting to, tap my NFC tag, they'd launch the app, see the session details. I'm going to switch back to PowerPoint now. Just to sum up, hopefully you've seen how simple it is to add support for app-to-app protocol to your app. It's really just a case of adding the protocol extension to the WP app manifest file, and then a little bit of code for URI mapper to do the URI mapping. I've also shown you how you would call that URI from another app. I'm now going to return to Steve for some more music demos. I'm going to sit down and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so building on top of app-to-app protocols, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the launcher tasks that are in the Windows Phone SDK. So, for example, Bing search task, the web browser task, let you use operating system services very simply from within your app. Now, it occurred to me, these app-to-app protocols are great, but trying to remember the details of some long URI is not easy. I only know it because I've been practicing typing that in repeatedly. So what I've done is made these high-level launcher tasks. So, for example, you can see here, this would be a show artist task. Now, this is the same example as I had a couple of slides back where it was, here's a test app which has a button that launches Nokia Music. You get the artist details. Exactly the same, but hopefully you can see slightly nicer syntax which fits in with the other operating system launchers. The other reason we wanted to add these launcher tasks is to provide web fallback. So Nokia Music is exclusive to Lumia phones, and the app-to-app protocol stuff is not available on Windows Phone 7. But what we wanted to do was enable a web fallback. So in those scenarios, and also on the emulator as well, we've got a special build, and we've got the ZAP file for our app, so we can deploy it on there and show you it on the emulator. But typically, it's not going to be on the emulator. So what we have here, and here's the exact code we're using. And again, these tasks work on Windows Phone 7 and 8, so that's why we've got this if-def up here. So if we're being compiled for Windows Phone 8, and we detect it's a Nokia device, and that's just using the manufacturer, then we call the launcher URI. So if not, and we're on Windows Phone 7, we're on the emulator and so on, we provide a web fallback. We think this is quite a nice pattern, if you want to expose this sort of stuff within your app. So similar to the previous slide where I was showing artist details within the Nokia Music app on Windows Phone, this is our website showing the same sort of information. So what launcher tasks do we offer? So this table is going to be really similar and pretty much the same as the URIs I was showing earlier, but you'll see it's a slightly reduced list because we can add some nice syntax around properties and setting search terms and that sort of stuff, which cleans it up a little bit. So the first one I showed originally was the launch task. The launch URI. This is a launch task which just does the same thing. Again, this is searching the MP3 store, which was what I was showing in my previous demo with the search /anything /term equals and so on. using this, hopefully you can see it's a bit cleaner. Again, from the previous slide, showing the artist details with the show artist task. Again, trying to create an artist mix, you can just go and use the play mix task. And finally, I think the show gigs task to launch into the app to show gigs around you. It wasn't finally. Curated mixes, launching into the app to show that as well. That's the final thing we got there. So what I was going to do next was give you a demo of using these launcher tasks. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back to the project I started with originally. Where was that? Sorry. Here. So this was the app where we had a search box and a search button to start the app. What I'm going to do is add a reference to the Nokia Music API DLL. I'm going to just add a reference locally because that will give me the version that works on the emulator. But I mean, the alternative and far more practical usage for you guys, if you want to use it, is just to go and use NuGet. So let me just search for Nokia Music on NuGet. You can see it's there. A whopping 19 installs so far. So you can see that'll install the Newtonsoft JSON library as well, which is what we're using for JSON parsing, which I'll cover in the REST API bit in a short while. So first thing I want to do is just replace this launcher URI. So I'll just comment this out. And I'm just going to create a new music search task. And within there, I can just set the search terms property. And then just call the show method. So hopefully you can see the syntax. It should be familiar with the other operating system launch tasks. So I run this. Anyone shout an artist out? You said Aerosmith just now, right? Okay, I'll do that. If I can type. So you're going to be amazed to see the same behavior. There you go. So there's Aerosmith coming through. And again, if you go through to the artist details, you can see some pictures. You can see gigs coming up if they're on tour. You can see a biography and so on, and play the mix from there. So that's that. The next thing I want to do, which is perhaps, or hopefully a bit more real-world use case for you, is to take an existing location-based app. And the app I'm going to get is on the Nokia developer site. And it was just an example app that's been put up there to show you a map based on your location. But what I'm going to do is extend that and add the Show Gigs Near Me feature and show you how easy that is. So just go here. So this is a project I've downloaded from the Nokia developer site. And all I've done to it is upgrade it to Windows Phone 8 and add a reference to our DLL. And I've included a search PNG just to speed things up. So if I run the existing version, so there you go. Not exactly mind-blowing, but it shows you we're in Redmond. There we go. I stop that. So what I'm going to do is go into the main page and add a new app bar icon. And set the text to be show gigs. And add a click handler. So if I go into the code behind, similar to the last thing, I'm just going to create one of our launcher tasks. This one, I could set search parameters, but just to show the stuff that's around me, I'm just going to call the show straight away. So there you go, one line of code. Let's see if that works. So here you can see down the bottom, I've got this new Show Gigs button in my app. If I press that, there you go. It shows the gigs around you based on your location. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you can see how easy it is to use these items. The next thing I want to show you is how easy it is to get music data inside your app. So it's all very well launching Nokia Music and showing music data over in our app in isolation. But we wanted to allow you to get interesting stuff inside your app as well. So there's many examples we'll come into in a minute. So what I'm showing here on the left-hand side, this could be your app. And what this is actually displaying is a list of top artists. Now, this list will vary per country, of course. This was taken back in the UK, but the top artists for the US and for India and so on will all obviously be different. And what you can see here, the very simple bit of code to use it. What we've got is a music client class. And we support, again, Windows Phone 7 and Windows Phone 8. So this is showing the lovely new async version. The old stuff for Windows Phone 7, we support the old delegate and event model. But we wanted to take advantage of the new async await pattern as well. So here you can see a call to get top artists. And no error checking. I'll be killed by the devs back in Bristol, but there we are. I'm just using the result straight away, setting it into the item source of this list box. And on the right-hand side, what this is showing at a later stage, if the user presses on Green Day, for example, here, the artist object has got a play mix method, which invokes those launcher tasks I was just showing. So makes it super easy for you to go and launch the app and actually do something a bit more useful with it. So I thought I'd give you a quick overview of some of the methods we support from the REST API. So a very basic search. I mean, this is a very simple one, but you can also do filtering by genre and so on. So you can get fairly sophisticated search results within your app. You can get a list of available genres. Now, the genres, of course, vary per country. What would be called Bollywood in the UK is probably called World over here in the US, for example, those sorts of levels of detail. Once you've got hold of a genre, you can go and get a chart of the top artists per genre. And speaking of charts, you can go and get just the overall album download charts, for example. You can get new releases. And so, for example, in your app, you could have a weekly new release feature where you showed the new albums that have come out this week. The top artists I've just talked about in the previous slide. Once you've got hold of an artist, you can get the products by them. So again, product meaning an album or track. So you can get a list of the albums available. And you can get recommendations for similar artists by that artist. Similar artist to that artist, sorry. And the final thing to show here is the mixed groups. So the curated mixed groups I showed within the app. What we're allowing is for you to get these and display them in your app. So a great example of this could be if you've got a sports tracker style app and you wanted to add mixed radio playback to it. You can call these two methods and let the user browse our curated mixes that they want to choose. You press on it, you call the play mix method that's on the actual mix object you get back here. And that will start Nokia Music, start some playback going. And the user can come back out of Nokia Music and then start their run or cycle or whatever it is they're happening to do. So next I wanted to give you a quick demo of using this REST API. And I'll just swap over to PC. So the first thing to mention is for our REST API, we require very basic authentication. And to do that, you just sign up at api.developer.nokia.com. Let's see if the internet is working for me. Hurrah. This is remembered my session from earlier on, so I've already logged in with an account, but if you haven't got an account, you can just sign up for one. It's free. And all you do is just register your app. So you can go in here and just give it a name and a description. And I'm signing up for the music API. You can also sign up for the Nokia location APIs here as well. So if you just hit request access, what you're given, maybe if I zoom in a bit, what you're given is what's called an app ID and an app code. So you can see these two bits here. I'll zoom in a bit more. So these authorize your request through to the API. I'll come back to this in a minute. What I've got here is a project, and I promise I'm not cheating too much. All I've got in here is a reference to the assembly already, just to save you watching me fumble over adding that reference again. I've got a tiny bit of templating in here. So all it is a horizontal stack panel. I display a thumb URI on the left-hand side, if there is one, and I display the name of the object as well. So that's all this is here. So what I'm going to do is build an app to show the the genres for the country the user is in, and then we'll drill down to get the top artist per genre. So you can see here I've got a loading text block. I'm just going to add a long list selector, which has received an awful lot of love in Windows Phone 8. If you've not looked at this control recently, you should do, because the performance is now phenomenal. It's great. I'm just going to set the item template to that API list item template I had just now. And I'm going to go into the code behind. And I'm going to use the onNavigated2, which is probably the most demoed method of the week, I would have thought. So I'm just going to check if it's a new navigation, so I don't call the REST API repeatedly. I'm going to create this music client async object. And on here, this is in the constructor, this is where you pass in the app ID and app code that we've just registered for. So I'm just going to swing back to the browser. And paste those in. So if you can see, that's fairly easy. Because I'm using the async version of our client, just need to add the async keyword. People familiar with the async await stuff that's coming in Windows 8, Windows Phone 8? Cool. So like I said, what I'm going to do is going to get a list of genres. So very simply, I'm just going to call the client's getGenres method. And next thing I'm going to do is the most basic of error checking. So this object you get back, it's got an error property, which will be an exception if something went wrong. So this could be your API keys are not valid, can't reach the internet, these sorts of things. And if it's all good, you'll get a result object back. So on my list, I can set the item source to be the genres result. One thing I forgot to do there is hide the loading text block. So if I run this, there you go, a list of genres. This in itself is not particularly interesting, right? So the next thing we'll do is add the drill down to get the top artist per genre. So what I'm going to do is add a new page. just call it artist.xaml. And I'm just going to grab the same content I've got on that main page. So that's a long list selector and a text block saying loading. Oh, go on, I'll get fancy and call this artist rather than page name. There we go. Next thing I'll do is grab the code behind as well. So it's going to follow pretty much the same pattern here. Creating a client and getting the method, calling a method and setting the results into a list box. So to save on typing, I'll just paste that in. Just rename that. And what I'm going to do, as I say, is get top artist for genre. And the genre ID, which I need to pass in, I'm going to get off the query string. So if I use the navigation context, and we'll pass that in as ID. And I will, I think, ask for 30 items. Make it a bit more interesting. Just sense checking, I think that's right. Oh, no, I don't need to run yet. Sorry, I haven't done the wiring up for the navigation. A bit premature. Right. Last thing I need to do on the main page is actually hook it up so I get a call to that page. So what I'm going to do is use the selected item changed event. And I'm going to get the genre that's been selected. Just to be robust, check it is actually a genre. And then navigate to that new page I've just created. So I'm just going to append the genre ID onto that query string and set the URI kind to relative, which always catches us out. Now I've run it. So let's see if that works. So we've got a list of genres. If I press on the country, there you go. You can see top artists for country in the US. So Taylor Swift, so on. So the final thing I want to do is show you how easy it is to start off an artist mix based on the user selection. So in a similar way, I'm just going to grab the selected item from the list as it's changed. So I'm just going to turn the selected item into an artist object. And simply call the playmix method, which is what I was showing on the slide just now. So this time, if I go and drill down into a genre, you can see the artist coming back. And if I scroll down and press on Green Day, hopefully we'll hear some music start. Thank you. There you go. So hopefully you've seen how easy it is to go and get music data into your app and link through to Nokia Music for things like playback, and you can also link through to purchase MP3s and so on within the application. So all that sort of complicated downloading and handling of streaming protocols and all that stuff is handled by us, and you can just go and use it. So in summary, I've shown you what Nokia Music is, shown you how to use app-to-app APIs, hopefully shown you some of the benefits of what you can get with your app if you go and use them, and finally shown you how to use the Nokia Music REST API to get data into your app. The source is up here on GitHub with this hopefully easier to remember URL. You can contact me on Twitter and email me. And just a reminder, it's available on NuGet if you want to go and use the assembly. Just go ahead and use it. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions. Thank you. So the question is, are gigs supported in the REST API? They're not at the moment. It's obviously something we realize is interesting. So I can't really say any more than that right now. We have to sort out some data issues with that. Yeah. Yes?
So this is for Nokia Music. Are you planning to create this kind of protocol, laptop protocols for all the Nokia products like apps, Drive?
Yes, so the question is, will other Nokia apps support the app-to-app protocols? I believe that is the case, but we don't have anything to announce today. But yes, it's certainly something the teams are looking at. So the question is, how do we work out what country the user is in? So when I created that music client object, maybe if I just go back to the code. For most people, they're not going to be interested in working out what country the user is in. There's actually an overload for this music client async method, constructor, where you can pass in a country code. Now this will be an ISO 2-character country code. We have another class in the client which, if you can get hold of a country code, you can call that method and see if we have a store there, basically. It's a bit of an advanced scenario. So what we do with the overload that I've shown here is just use the region settings on the phone, and that's typically OK. And if there's a mismatch between the user's region settings and their SIM, for example, by the time you get into the Nokia Music app, we actually do the proper check, so things will work out. If you're interested in in that more advanced scenario, there's actually the documentation which is linked to from this URI. We'll cover some of that. Yes?
This market in general, all the information only available on Windows Phone, or is it also available for
Good. So the question is this available on Windows 8? We don't have any of the C# stuff available for Windows 8, but we have a REST API which is linked to from this this URI here.
Do you plan to support this also for Windows Phone 7.8 devices?
So the question is this supported on Windows Phone 7? Yes, absolutely. So this GitHub project has got a Windows Phone 7 assembly. Unfortunately, the app-to-app protocols are new in, well, not unfortunately because it's an awesome feature, but they're only in Windows Phone 8, right? So that's why I was talking about the web fallback. So you can use the same REST API calls on Windows Phone 7. You can go and use those launchers if you wanted to, but you'll know that you'll get a web version, which is the best we can do on Windows Phone 7. We can't do that on Windows Phone 7, no. We need the app-to-app protocol support, which is new. Any other questions? No? OK. Well, thank you very much, and have a good trip home.
Some of the next seats.